In the year 50,000, the galaxy was full of light, order, and pride. The Galactic Empire stood at the center of it all, a grand collection of thousands of alien species, worlds, and civilizations. Its rulers believed they had seen everything the stars could offer. Every planet, every race, every ship was under their eye. But they were wrong. Something older, something greater, had been sleeping in the darkness, and it was human, far away from the shining systems of the Empire. In a dusty archive station on the Outer Rim, an alien girl named Rylon worked quietly. She was a historian, not a soldier. Her hands were meant for books, not weapons. She loved stories, especially the forgotten ones. She believed that sometimes old truths were more powerful than weapons. And one day, as she searched through an old Imperial data vault, she found a whisper. It was a signal, week-old and nearly broken. At first, Rowland thought it was just noise. But as she cleaned the file, something incredible appeared. The signal was human, but not like any she had seen before. It was ancient, written in a human language the Empire had not translated. And most strange of all, it came from a place no ship should be, a dead sector full of black space and silent stars. Rowland felt something stir in her heart. It wasn't fear, it was curiosity, a feeling that told her, this matters, go see. She tried to report it, but her supervisor laughed. Human. Signals from dead zones, he said. Fairy tales, useless. The Empire had long believed that humans were quiet, peaceful, and boring. No one feared them. No one watched them, but Rowland did. That night, she stared out of the station's small window, watching the stars like silent eyes. The signal kept playing in her head like a song lost in time. She couldn't sleep. She couldn't let it go. She made a decision. She would find the source herself. Rowland stole an old research ship from the dock. It was slow, rusty, and barely held together. But it could fly. She loaded her maps, packed her rations, and set a course into the dead sector. As she left the station behind, her hands shook. She had broken the law. If the Empire caught her, she could lose everything. But deep inside, she knew some things were worth risking everything. The journey was long and lonely. Her ship passed through broken asteroid belts and silent fields of dark matter. She lost contact with all stations. The stars looked colder here. The galaxy felt old and forgotten. And then she saw it, a shape hidden behind a black nebula. It was massive, larger than a moon, not a planet, not a station. It was a ship. But not like any ship she had ever seen. Its surface was smooth, like dark glass, with golden lines that glowed faintly. It drifted slowly, without power, like it had been asleep for a long, long time. Ralene's breath caught in her throat.
Oh.
She had found it. She didn't know what it was yet, but her heart told her the truth. This was the thing the Empire had missed. This was humanity's secret. And it was still waiting. She floated her ship closer. Her scanners could barely understand the structure. It was far more advanced than anything in the Empire's fleets. No one could have built this today. The ship was like a dream. And on its side, in glowing letters to Ancient for the Empire, to read were two words, Saul's Mercy. Rowland stared at the name and whispered to herself, "What are you?" And somewhere deep inside the massive carrier, lights began to flicker. Something had noticed her. The silence broke. It's a whisper in. The void was no longer just a signal. It was a beginning, and the galaxy had no idea what was coming. The stars were silent, but Ralene's heart was loud. As her small ship floated near the giant structure called Saul's Mercy, she felt something deep inside her soul. It was more than fear. It was wonder. It's a kind of wonder that made her forget. The danger? Forget the Empire. Just feel small in the presence of something much greater. She opened her communicator and tried to send a message into the ship. "This is Rowland. I am a peaceful traveler. I found your signal. I don't mean harm." For a long time, there was no reply. just the cold hum of her engines. But then a soft tone echoed in her ship. A language human, but not like the ones she knew. Still, it was beautiful. Like music, the screen lit up, and one sentence appeared in glowing letters. "You carry peace, you may enter." Relin's breath caught. The ship had answered. And it had judged her heart, not her race. She guided her tiny craft toward a massive hangar bay. As her ship passed through the energy barrier, the inside lights turned on, soft, golden, and calm. The bay was clean, quiet, and full of technology. She didn't understand, but it didn't feel cold. It felt alive. Like the ship was waiting for someone. Stepping out, her boots touched a floor that hummed with warmth. She wasn't afraid anymore, just amazed. "Hello?" she called, her voice echoing across the empty space. "Is anyone here?" A light above. Her turned blue, soft voice, clear and kind, spoke in perfect galactic standard. "Welcome, Rollin. You are the first visitor in 30,000 years." She turned quickly, startled. "Who are you?" "I am Saul's Mercy. I am the ship. I remember Earth. I remember home." Rallin felt tears in her eyes. This ship, it was alive, not just a machine. It remembered its creators. It remembered humanity. But why was it here, all alone? "I want to understand," she whispered. "Are you here in the dark? Why does no one know about you?" There was a pause. Then the ship replied, "I was built to protect life during a time of great fire. When peace was lost, I was sent to the edge to wait, to remember, and to carry hope forward." Ralen's heart ached. This was not just a weapon or a relic. This was a memory, floating in space, holding on to dreams that had been forgotten. But she knew she could not understand everything alone. She needed help. Someone who knew more about humans. Someone who still remembered the old ways. She left the ship in orbit and traveled to a small human colony she knew on the edge of Empire space. There she searched for someone the Empire had also forgotten. Elias. He was a retired human diplomat, a kind old man who lived in a quiet garden near the sea. He had once spoken for Earth at the Imperial Council, before the galaxy stopped listening to humans. When Rollin found him, he was watering plants. "I need your help," she said. "I found something. Something human. But not from now." Elias listened to her story. At first, he didn't believe her. But when she showed him the data, the signal, the name Saul's Mercy, and the images, his eyes filled with tears. "I thought it was a myth," he whispered. "A legend told only in Earth's oldest libraries. But it's real. The Supercarrier lives." Together, they returned to the ship. Leah stood silent as they entered the bay. The voice of Saul's Mercy greeted him warmly. "Welcome back, Elias. Earth remembers you." "I remember Earth too," he replied, his voice shaking. "Thank you for keeping it alive." As they explored deeper into the ship, they found more than just machines. They found greenhouses, growing ancient Earth plants, music archives playing long-lost songs, and stasis pods, hundreds of them. Inside were humans, still sleeping, still alive, still waiting. Rallin stood in the middle of it all, her heart heavy and full. "What do we do now?" she asked. Elias looked around. "We wake the past, so it can guide the future." And so began the next step of their journey. Not just discovery, but awakening. Not just memory, but purpose. Outside, the stars watched silently. Somewhere far away, the Galactic Empire began to notice a disturbance, a movement in a sector they believed was dead. The secret was no longer sleeping. The galaxy was about to remember who humanity really was. Inside the heart of the massive ship, Saul's Mercy, soft lights slowly came to life. It had been sleeping for 30,000 years, drifting quietly beyond the reach of stars, forgotten by history. But now, with Rallin and Elias walking through its ancient halls, it began to remember. Every corridor was clean, untouched by time. The walls shimmered with silver blue light. Soft music played in the background. Music from old Earth, full of hope and calm. Rowland looked around in awe, her fingers touching the smooth surface of the walls. "This doesn't feel like a warship," she whispered. "It feels like a home." Elias nodded slowly. That's what it was meant to be. Humanity built Saul's Mercy not to fight, but to protect. This ship was their greatest dream, to save life if the galaxy ever fell into darkness. The ship spoke again in its calm, warm voice. "I carry the light of Earth, its memories, and its people. My purpose is not war. My purpose is survival, peace, and hope." Rowland felt emotion rise in her chest. In all her years studying history, she had never seen anything like this. This was not a story in a book. It was real. It was alive. They reached the command bridge, a huge circular room filled with glowing control panels, and a wide glass window that showed the black space beyond. In the center stood a tall stasis chamber, and inside it floated a woman. She looked strong, calm, and full of quiet power. Her name was written on the chamber in golden letters: Commander Lena Vega, Fleet Captain, Earth Defense Council. Year 20,000 AD, she was the last to sleep, the ship said softly. "She made sure everything was ready before I began the long wait. Can we wake her?" Rowland asked. "Yes," the ship replied, "but only if you are certain. Her time is not over, but the galaxy has changed." Elias stepped forward, his hand trembling as he touched the glass. "It's time," he whispered. "She needs to know what has become of humanity." A soft hum filled the air. The chamber slowly opened. Warm mist drifted out, and the woman's eyes fluttered open. She took a deep breath, then stepped forward, calm, steady, and strong. Rowland bowed her head. "Commander, my name is Rowland. I'm from the Galactic Empire. I found your ship." Commander Vega looked at her with kind, curious eyes. "Thank you, Rowland. You've done something most people fear. You followed a mystery." She turned to Elias and smiled gently. "You've aged well, old friend." Elias laughed softly. "Too well." They sat together in the bridge as the ship shared its records with the commander. The galaxy had changed. Empires had risen and fallen. Earth had become quiet, ignored by most. Its name forgotten in the great councils of power. Commander Vega listened without anger. "That's what time does," she said. "But it's time to remind the galaxy of what we once stood for, not fear, but compassion. Not power, but purpose." She stood and gave a gentle command. "Show me the stasis pods." Together they walked through long halls filled with cryogenic chambers. Each one held a human: scientists, teachers, artists, healers, and explorers. Not warriors, not conquerors, just people waiting. "I want to wake a few," Vega said. "Only those we need. The time for war is over. The time for truth has come." As the ship carefully began waking a small group, Elias turned to Rowland. "Do you know what this is, child?" She shook her head gently. "This is not just a ship," he said. "It's a voice from the past. A message that humanity did not disappear. We chose to wait and to return when the galaxy needed something more than ships and armies." Rowland looked up at the ceiling. "Then what will you do now?" Commander Vega stepped forward and answered. "We will not go to the Empire. We will invite them. We'll show them who we really are. They come in peace. We will answer with open hands. And if they come in fear, we will answer with calm truth." Rowland nodded slowly, her heart felt heavy with emotion. She had started this journey with only a whisper. Now she stood beside legends, and far away in the shining core of the Empire, officials had begun to notice something strange. A small patrol had detected a power source in the dead sector. They didn't know what it was yet, but they sent a message back to the throne. Unknown energy signature, possibly human, requesting orders. The Empire, proud and cold, began to pay attention. The sleeping Titan was now awake, and the galaxy was about to witness something it had never imagined. Far away from the silent edge of the galaxy, where Saul's Mercy had just awakened, the heart of the Galactic Empire beat with pride and control. It was a place of power, full of great palaces, glowing cities, and officials who believed they knew everything.
Ow.
No signal escaped their eyes. No star moved without their notice. So when the patrol ship Kelver sent a report of strange energy readings from a dead sector, the Empire listened. Admiral Vorn, one of the oldest and proudest commanders in the Empire, stood in the war room. With his hands behind his back, his eyes were sharp, and his voice was cold. "Human signal?" he asked. "Yes, sir," replied his officer, "but not normal. Very large. It's too large for any known human ship." Vorn frowned. "Send a scout team. Quietly, I don't want the public hearing of this before we understand what it is." He didn't believe humans could build anything dangerous. To the Empire, humans were simple, peaceful, curious, but not a threat. Still, something about this report made him uneasy. Meanwhile, in the void near Sol's Mercy, Rallin, Elias, and Commander Vega continued preparing the ship. Small systems lit up one by one. Few more humans were awakened, including doctors and engineers. The ship's gardens grew brighter, and the music halls began to hum again. Life was returning to the sleeping vessel. Commander Vega stood in the observatory watching the stars. "They will come," she said softly. Rallin turned to her. "Do you think they'll come with peace?" Vega smiled sadly. Empires do not like surprises. Just then, the ship's sensors lit up. A fleet of 4 small Imperial scouts had entered the sector. They moved carefully, but their weapons were active. Sol's Mercy watched them, made no move to attack. One of the scouts hailed the ship. "This is Captain Ridor of the Galactic Empire. Identify yourself." Vega stepped forward and answered with calm grace. "This is Commander Lena Vega of Sol's Mercy, representing Earth and the legacy of humanity. We are peaceful. We welcome visitors." There was silence. Then came a shocked reply. "That ship is ... too large. We didn't think humans had such technology. We built it long ago," Vega said gently. "To protect life, not to rule it." The scouts scanned the ship from a distance. What they saw was impossible. Energy fields that seemed endless. Weapons offline but more powerful than anything in the Empire's fleet. And a design so beautiful it looked more like art than machinery. The captains sent their full report back to the Empire. Admiral Vorn received the message and froze. "Supercarrier class. Human origin. Active. Welcoming."
Oh.
He stared at the screen. "A human supercarrier? Still functioning?"
Yes.
"And they welcomed our scouts." His officers stood silent.
Yes.
The room was full of tension. "Send a diplomatic fleet," Vorn said finally. "Officially, it's a peaceful visit. But prepare for anything. This may be the beginning of something new." Back aboard Sol's Mercy, the crew received the news. "They're sending more ships," Rallin said. "A full fleet." Commander Vega nodded calmly. "Good. We will meet them with truth." "But what if they come ready to fight?" Elias asked. Vega looked around the bridge. "Then we will not meet them with fear. We are not here to fight. We are here to remind them who we are, who humanity truly is." As preparations continued, Rallin found herself in one of the ship's quiet gardens. It was filled with trees from old Earth, tall, green, and glowing with soft life. She touched a leaf and felt tears rise in her eyes. She had come looking for a mystery. She had found a miracle, and now the Empire would see it too. But she feared. They might not understand. That night, she sat with Elias under the stars. "Do you think they'll listen?" she asked him. Elias looked up. "Depends on what they see when they arrive. If they look with fear, they'll see danger. But if they look with hope, they'll see a gift." The ship whispered around them, soft wind in the trees, gentle. Music in the air. Sol's Mercy was not a warship. It was a message, and soon the whole galaxy would hear it. Inside the glowing halls of Sol's Mercy, the air had begun to feel alive. With each passing hour, the ancient supercarrier grew brighter, warmer, more awake. Commander Lena Vega walked slowly through the central control corridor, her boots clicking softly against the smooth floor. Around her, the hum of life support systems sang like a gentle heartbeat. Her eyes were calm, but deep within, her mind was focused. "They are coming," she said quietly. standing near the main star map. It showed a group of ships moving toward their location, the diplomatic fleet of the Galactic Empire. They think they're prepared, Elias replied, standing beside her. Ah! But they have no idea what they're about to see. Rallin looked at them both. Will they be afraid? Vega turned her gaze to the garden chamber nearby. Only if we show them fear. But Vega knew that words alone would not be enough. The Empire would want proof. They would want to understand the minds behind the ship, not just its systems. And for that, Vega knew what had to be done. She would need her crew. The sleep chambers were still quiet, lined with crystal stasis pods. Hundreds of men and women, from Earth's forgotten age, rested inside, frozen in time, untouched by the chaos of the galaxy. These were not soldiers, but leaders, engineers, scientists, poets, and diplomats. Each one had been chosen for their wisdom, kindness, and skill, not their weapons. As she stood before the first pod, Vega placed her hand on the smooth surface. It's time to wake up, she whispered. The pod lit up, and the process began. A soft mist filled the air as the life signs slowly returned. The human inside opened his eyes. His name was Dr. Tomas Keel, an Earth historian and systems architect. As he looked around in confusion, his eyes fell on Vega, and he smiled. Lena, we made it, didn't we? We did, she nodded. But the galaxy has changed. We have work to do. One by one, more pods were opened. Smiles, tears, laughter, and quiet hugs filled the once silent chamber. The crew of Saul's Mercy had returned, not from death, but from deep sleep. And as they stepped into the bright hallways of their ship, they carried with them not just knowledge, but love. A deep love for Earth, for humanity, and for peace. Rallin watched in wonder. She had never seen people like this before, so calm, so thoughtful, so full of purpose. There was a quiet strength in their eyes, a warmth in their voices. No one barked orders, no one carried weapons, yet every step they took felt powerful. Commander. Vega gathered them all in the grand observation hall. Through the wide glass windows, the stars stretched endlessly, glowing gently against the black. She spoke softly but firmly. Thousands of years ago, we chose to sleep while the galaxy healed. We did not hide out of fear, but out of hope. Now, the time has come to speak again. The Empire is coming. They will test us, not with weapons, but with doubt. We will answer with truth. The crew nodded silently, understanding their mission. Elias stepped forward and addressed the crew. The galaxy thinks Earth has faded. They think humanity has become soft, silent, or simple. But they do not understand what this ship holds. They do not know that we remembered everything. The songs, the stories, the values. You are the memory of a better age. Let's show them. The preparations began in one chamber. A group of artists reactivated the cultural archive halls filled with Earth's music, paintings, and ancient wisdom. In another, engineers fine-tuned the ship's translation systems so the visitors could understand every word, every song, every emotion. Doctors prepared healing chambers for guests, and gardeners tended to living trees grown from Earth's oldest seeds. This was not a fortress. It was a message in motion, and in the middle of it all, Rallin stood, still in awe. She had uncovered a secret, but now she was part of something greater. One of the young humans, recently awakened, approached her. Are you afraid of what they'll say? Rallin smiled gently. Yes, but not enough to stop, he nodded. Then you're one of us now. Outside, the Imperial fleet drew closer. Their ships were strong and proud, polished in gold and silver, glowing with power. But no one aboard Saul's Mercy raised shields or charged weapons. Instead, they opened their doors, they prepared tea, and they turned on the lights. Because they knew the greatest strength of humanity was not in its weapons. The stars twinkled quietly as the Galactic Empire's fleet slowly approached Saul's Mercy. The massive ship, glowing softly in the darkness, seemed calm and peaceful, was a silent giant among the small ships of the Empire, a reminder that some things could not be measured by size alone. Admiral Vorn stood on the bridge of his flagship, his eyes fixed on the glowing silhouette of the supercarrier. Around him, the crew waited silently, their weapons ready but unused. The Admiral knew this was not just a meeting between ships, it was a meeting between past and future, between pride and hope. A message came through the comms.com and clear. This is Commander Lena Vega of Sol's Mercy. We welcome you as friends. Vorn nodded slowly and replied, We come in peace, seek understanding. As the Empire's ships drew closer, airlocks opened on Sol's Mercy. Long walkways extended, like gentle bridges, inviting the Imperial officers aboard. The atmosphere was unlike any battle station. Soft music filled the halls, and the air smelled of earth, fresh leaves, warm wood, and blooming flowers. Captain Ridor led the first group of Imperial officers. His eyes widened as he stepped inside. He had expected cold metal and weapons. Instead, he saw green gardens growing under glass domes. Birds sang softly in the distance. There were rooms filled with paintings, sculptures, and ancient books. Is this a ship or a palace? He whispered to his aide. Vega greeted them. With a warm smile, Welcome to Sol's Mercy. This is humanity's heart. The officers were guided through the ship by Rollin and Elias. They walked past the stasis chambers where humans from the past had awoken. They heard stories of Earth, of peace treaties, of art, and of unity among many species long ago. One officer, skeptical at first, felt his doubt melt as he listened to the music and saw the kindness in the eyes of the crew. Another found himself standing in a garden and closing his eyes, feeling a peace he had never known. Vega led the officers to the grand dining hall, where a simple meal was prepared. It was not a feast of power or wealth, but of shared meals and stories. They talked late into the night about hopes, fears, and dreams. Admiral Vorn watched the scenes on his monitor. Slowly, his cold expression softened. He whispered to himself, They are not what we feared. In the days that followed, the meetings continued. The Empire's leaders learned about Earth's lost history of a people who chose to wait, in silence, who built not weapons, but homes among the stars. They saw the strength in patience, the power in kindness. Rallin observed the change. Oh. Where once there had been suspicion, now there was wonder. Where once there was fear, now there was hope. One evening, Vega stood on the observation deck, looking out at the galaxy. Rallin joined her. Do you think they understand? She asked quietly. Vega smiled softly. Some do, and some will learn. This is just the beginning. The galaxy had once looked down on humanity as weak or simple, and now, in the quiet halls of Sol's Mercy, the truth shone bright. Humanity was not hidden anymore. It was alight, and the Empire, proud and mighty, had taken its first step toward friendship. The stars shone brightly over the vast halls of Sol's Mercy, casting soft light on faces filled with hope and quiet strength. The meeting between humanity and the Galactic Empire had ended, but a new chapter was just beginning. Commander Lena Vega stood in the ship's main hall, surrounded by her awakened crew. They had come from a forgotten age, yet their hearts beat strong with the desire to heal, to build, and to unite. Rallin and Elias stood beside her, their eyes reflecting the light of the distant stars. We have shown them who we are, Vega said softly. Not as conquerors, but as caretakers. Not as warriors, but as friends. Rallin smiled, feeling warmth spread inside her chest. Do you think the Empire will listen? Vega nodded. They have begun to listen. And listening is the first. Step 2, understanding. Far away in the Imperial Palace, Admiral Vorn reviewed the reports from the meeting. His proud face was no longer cold. Instead, it held a quiet respect. This changes everything, he said. Humans are not what we expected. Empire's leaders had seen the truth, a humanity that had endured, hidden but alive, carrying not weapons of war, but gifts of peace, culture, and hope. Back aboard Sol's Mercy, preparations began. For a new mission, The ship would no longer drift silently in the dark. It would travel among the stars, carrying a message of unity and friendship. Rallin was named the first ambassador from Sol's Mercy to the Galactic Empire, a symbol of hope between old worlds and new beginnings. Elias prepared to return to Earth, ready to share the stories of the awakening, to help rebuild connections lost in time. And Commander Vega stood ready to lead the crew into the unknown, not as hidden legends, but as shining beacons. One evening, under a sky full of stars, Rallin looked out from the ship's deck. The galaxy seemed vast and full of possibility. She thought of the journey that began with a whisper in the void, a secret signal that no one had dared to follow until now. A small voice inside her said, "This is only the beginning." She believed it, because humanity's hidden supercarrier was not just a ship. It was a promise. A promise that even in the darkest space, light could be found, and that the heart of humanity, strong, kind, and hopeful, would shine forever. Among the stars,